to Bear Lifestyle, the podcast where we talk about taboo topics to make them normal and acceptable. I'm your host, Simona Spark, and I'm so happy that you are here. We are about to get naked by stripping away insecurities, judgments, and all kinds of limitations to reveal the essence of who we really are, Bear. Bold, authentic, radical, express. Let's go. Cheers, cheers. I'm always celebrating myself, and I'm celebrating my guests and everyone who listens and watches. Today with water. What is your beverage of choice, my lady?
Water.
Water. Hydration, hydration, hydration.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
There you go. So here we are. Very happy, you guys, to introduce you to Cabana, which I just met her exactly 10 minutes ago. And she has a lot to offer. So before we even started, I'll put you on the spot here. Do you agree to come back?
Maybe. Sure.
Maybe. She goes. All right. So here's what I know, being a recommendation from another guest of ours. This is what I knew. Burlesque dancer by night and mortician by day.
Yes.
And in the past 5 minutes, I found out so many other things of this wonderful person that we have here. So let's just dive in. First of all, welcome.
Hello, it's nice to be here.
Wonderful. Let us know, where are you tuning in from?
I am from the beautiful Sunshine State. I'm coming from Florida.
Florida. Well, welcome, welcome. Now, one thing that piqued my interest in this season, especially in our podcast, we did a lot of conversation around accepting one's sexual preferences. So we have conversation about kinks, fetishes, how to include, accept, explore, and expand BDSM practices in our sex life. And one of your little share was that you used to be a dominatrix, like a professional dominatrix. Do you want to tell us?
Still.
I've
never stopped.
Never stop. Okay, well, yeah. So would you mind sharing with us, how do you end up becoming a professional dominatrix?
Well, I was kind of groomed for sex work very early as a teenager. It was something I always kind of had an aptitude for, and my mother had been a stripper, so it was not a taboo subject in our house, like sex work at all. And her mother before her had been a sugar baby, and so anything that was nice that she ever had, she would show it to me, and she'd be like, "You see this? A very nice man gave this to," that type of thing,
Right.
like a very nice man took me to France. So little things like that. It wasn't a taboo subject to me to get into sex work, like the second it seemed available to me. And I was inside some weird situations as a baby teenager with people who were much, much older than me, who I very quickly realized, oh, I can manipulate these people and I can make a pretty penny if I want to. So I paid for my schooling, and I paid for my lessons. I paid for all of my travel, and through early sex work and variations on sex work. Because, there were some times where it would just be me looking at a person and being very, very mean to them, which it doesn't sound like a lot here, but coming from a 15-year-old girl in a cheerleader outfit who is being mean to somebody and then taking all their money, it was like, oh, this is something I could do a lot. And I'm a very nice person, so it just felt like playing a very fun, mean part. And it was like, okay, good. I'm gonna go buy a cell phone now.
Right. So let me ask you something there. I mean, as much as you could recall from that age, right? Which one was it? Or maybe it was a little bit of both. Was it more like you discover like this character that you get to play, that you get to be in power? Or was more like you discover, oh, I actually am aroused by this, might be a kink or might be a fetish of mine? or was it a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. I think it was because there is a great power fantasy to it. And like the financial aspect, we didn't grow up with much. We grew up I lived in the country. And so like the fact that I could, look at someone 3 times my age and know that like I'm gonna take him for all he's got, like that just made my nipples hard. There was like the kink itself was the financial domination of it. And because any man who would blubber, like would be on his knees and blubber before me or whatever, I find it disgusting unless he's offering me money. Because then it's like, oh, so you're just pathetic. Okay, yeah, I've lost interest. Bye. So it was definitely the financial domination that did it for me. It was like, oh my God, you've got it to give. I'm gonna take it. Sploosh.
So wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Now, fast forward, like what will be the time or how many years later, if you don't mind sharing, when you like, this is who I am. I see the business of it. I know what I like, what I don't. I have boundaries. I have rules. I'm like 100%.
Well, I mean, I leaned in pretty early on and I started reading literature about it, trying to figure out my own kinks. And a lot of the literature says all the best tops start on the bottom, and I wanted to be a really good top. So I signed on with a professional master to be a slave for a 1-year period. So it was like, you're going to be a slave for a year, then you'll be an undermistress for 2 years, and then we will unleash you into the world. And so this didn't, we started talking when I was 17 and didn't start playing until I was 18. So like, because he really wanted to be everything above board. This person was incredibly cruel, incredibly sadistic, and I was never masochistic. I'm not a pain slut, but I am extremely competitive. And so it was not an especially kinky experience. I treated it like an educational experience and an exercise in self-discipline. It's okay, I'm going to put up with this shit for X amount of time. And, you kind of get Stockholmed into that situation, because even though I hated all of this, I desperately wanted his approval. And so by the end of that first year, as he's releasing me and recommending me to go work under some friends as a baby dom, he's like putting me on a plane and I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna see you again. He's like, maybe you won't. Bye. Because it was like, he was like, you're not submissive. Sorry. I'm like, no, I'm not, but I still want you to like me. And
yes.
So it was a weird situation. I definitely felt better and more in my comfort zone when I was holding the paddle again. And I felt like, okay, I've gone through it. I've figured out that I am not a slave. I'm not submissive. I don't like my hair being pulled. I don't like being hit. I can take it because I'm mean, and like it was I'm meaner than you, so I can take more pain. And that person had said that he would never bottom. He's like, I've never bottomed and I never would. I'm like, really? So that means that you don't know what your bottoms are going through. You don't know what your slaves are going through. And you have zero empathy. And I want to offer an empathic experience. And so that informed me. By the time that I was 19 and moving on to being a dom, I never wanted to be that cruel corporal punishment on your knees bitch type person. And so I've been a soft dom. I've been for like, once I found out that there was a word for it. Oh, soft dom? You mean I can be encouraging and nice and help bring out the best in somebody and just make them trust that mother knows best? It's like, you're 19, you're not mother. I'm like, I think I am. I think I know best.
The ages are not as relevant, right?
Exactly.
I really appreciate, I have personally a deep appreciation for playing on the other side just to understand where people are coming from. I have this conversation like in a vanilla space, if you wish, with men where, like we talk anal sex. And I was like, did you ever have anal sex? So I have with guys is like, no, I'm not gay. I'm like, this is not about being gay. I'm asking you if you ever experienced penetration.
Exactly.
So you have understanding what that is, right? And I also met another man. Then he was like, yeah, of course. Like, I really want to understand what the woman that I'm with is going through, what I'm put her
Yeah.
through this experience, even though they're two different bodies and different experiences, right? So
Yeah.
there is a space where, what I'm here advocating for sexual liberation is like, what is that? What has different meaning for different people, but how much we could open ourselves up to experiences
Uh-huh.
will only be determined if we are able to also let go of those labor. Oh, that makes me dumb. That makes me gay. That makes me like, no, that just makes me, I have a body and there's this
Exactly.
deal with things and I get to try this, and that.
I God, the joy I experienced when I discovered power bottoming and service topping and realizing that it didn't make me any less dominant to say, okay, maybe like it's not about dominance or submission. It's about like in this moment I'm a taker, in this moment I'm a giver.
Yes.
And so I love service topping. I love saying like, okay, I'm going to take care of you and you're going to like it. You have to
Mhm.
sit down, you're going to take it. I'm going to give it to you. And that's what this is. You have no choice in the matter because I know best. Yes.
Mhm.
And then just because I did something nice for them, and it's like that doesn't mean anything. It means that we shared a very nice experience. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
I'm your son.
It's a
And
mutual
it's
pleasurable experience. I don't know if you play with Switch, right?
I do. I play with switches and I switch myself because
Yeah.
sometimes I just want to receive and like a little bit of rough sex. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's like
Receive, be
that,
taken
and it
care of.
feels like I'm powerful. So
So that's like I'm identify myself as a switch as well. It's just there is a point like, hey, I'm gonna tell you what to do. Here I am in control, giving the commands. But in order to fully receive it and enjoy it, it's required to pass the power.
you
To
have to surrender.
put you in control, I need to go in full surrender and full receiving mode, right? So if we play with this masculine, feminine energy, that's what people are understanding. Like, yes, I'm controlling, I'm doing, I'm making the plan, I'm telling what to do with a very masculine energy. But in order to receive, I need to be in full femininity and receive with pleasure. If it's not mutual, pleasurable, and enjoyable, I don't even fucking care who the roles are,
Exactly.
who's who, right? Because then we are in a different space. Now we're in abuse. And that's
Hmm.
not what we are talking here. And that's where a lot of people got themselves tricked into, right? Because it's like, oh, I'm submissive. I just to be shut up and take it and whatever. It was like, yeah, but girl, do you
But
enjoy it?
where's the fun? And like there have been times where I've found myself on the receiving end of just something very rough and heavy. And then it's like, if I surrender myself to enjoying it, then it doesn't mean anything. It means that I'm having fun. And this person who is usually a bottom or whatever that I'm surrendering to in this moment. It's like, okay, all right, maybe I'll just, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna love it and I'm gonna have a fantastic time. And they get a taste of what it's like to be me for a minute. And it's a really beautiful thing to see somebody who is like the kindest, most gentlest person on earth suddenly go full dark and go, you like that? Okay. And it's like, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
So as a
good
coach
times.
that I do identity work a lot and work with,
Mhm.
healing trauma and lead my clients through stepping into their authenticity. It's I just love this new space that I've been playing in for the past couple of years of how can we use, and we could use like BDSM as tools to access some deep trauma, to do some like massive releasing, right? To tap into the point where it's like it's always been dark and pain and insecurity, and we get to fully transmute it to healing through orgasm. Like, that's just, why would you not do that?
I think that, I mean, for a really long time, before I was actively in therapy myself, and I've been in therapy for like 7 years, and I've got my closest friend is a therapist, not my therapist, but a therapist. So during my 20s, my early 20s, I would refer to what I did as alternative therapy. And it's like, no, you're not a therapist. You're not you shouldn't throw that word around. But I always thought that healing trauma via, it's like, okay, let's take that traumatic experience. Because one of the questions I would ask people in my initial interviews before any kind of session or anything like that, I would go full Hannibal Lecter, and I would go, what is your worst memory? Like, tell me about your worst memory, and let's see if it connects to your kink, and how can we reshape that. Let's take that memory, reenact it in a way that you can shut down at any time, make it fun, make it this. Now, if it's like the death of a family member or something, then no. Let's talk about a time where you were the most embarrassed as a kid or something like that. Let's take it, make it sexy, make it fun. And then it's like, oh, now it's kind of like, oh my God, you got busted, checking out your aunt. Let's unpack that and make it hot. Now it's replaced, and it's like, now you can hear that song again and think of, sucking my nipples instead of getting your ass beat or something.
Right. Yeah. Valid, super valid. Like really reframing and putting the power back into their hands, right?
Exactly.
But I will say, as I say many times in this space, it's like we don't want to go full on into a dungeon with no healing prior, right?
Agreed.
I have this session, like I'm a subject of the work first, right? Where I actually ask my partner to tie me in a way that I've been tied down and raped. And I want to, like, the memory was so vivid. I did a lot of healing to have, like I said, that's something that happened to me. I know exactly what happened. There is no shame attached to it anymore. It's healed. But I needed to put myself into the space. Like, I knew exactly where the rope need to go on my body and when to be loose and when to be pressure. And just to scan myself and to see, like, oh, goddamn, I recreate the scene.
Yeah.
I ask for it. And I'm gonna have a hell of a good time right now.
I do the same thing personally. Like, again, a lifetime of sex work, you end up having some rather unsavory experiences. And there are things that I will absolutely masturbate to now, because it's I'm reliving that entire memory that at the time was deeply unpleasant and traumatizing. And then and now it's like, yeah, but in this version, I get off on it. And there are things where, like, I've had, and I hate it. Like, I don't hate it. It's taken a long time and a lot of therapy for me to get comfortable with the idea of getting off on my own trauma, because in the act of getting off on it, it like liberates me from the pain of that experience. Because it's like, okay, let's recreate absolutely everything about that moment. And everything becomes so vivid in my own memory, except now I'm holding the Hitachi. I'm bringing forth my own orgasm. Nobody is forcing it out of me. Nobody is, I'm not being violated. I'm in control of the entire experience. And yeah, I'm looking at the face of somebody who did something horrible to me, but this time I'm getting off on it. And that shame aspect, like it's very Catholic, but there's the shame is hot. The guilt is hot. The guilt of enjoying this experience. But even then, like, enjoying it is taking ownership over it. They don't own it. I do. So absolutely believe in healing through that.
Oh, thank you for saying that. I can even imagine, like, as a survivor of human trafficking, when I start talking about these topics and like sharing my experiences in BDSM space, uh, the the comments and people are just mean, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
and all the things, and in the end, this like with the tools that I have from coaching, with my life experience and healing and all that, and put them in all into creating this container, I continue to talk about shame, guilt, and fear, like the
Uh-huh.
main, more the roots. And if I get to touch those 3 points, like at most raw and honest with a client, then you could bring whatever you want to me because I know we could transmute it. I know we could heal it. And in this particular space, I like to talk about dungeons, but
Yeah.
not the dark, scary place, like a sexy place
My
where it's like,
I'm all about my ideal dungeon looks like Barbie's dream house. So
there you
it's
go, right? It gets to be sexy and white and because that's the misconception though. It's like you say BDSM, like, oh my God, no, it's whips and letters and pain and whatever. And I keep saying, like,
like
yes, if that's what gets you off, yes.
it's the thing that makes you go, ooh.
Yeah,
But I mean, for some people, it's an office.
yeah, yeah.
And so it's different for everybody. Some people it's a doctor's office. So
Yeah, whatever your kink is, whatever your
yeah,
fetishes is, right?
it's like
And even
Kink's got a million of them.
yeah, and even the roles, they get to be like really redefined. I didn't like I hear it from Cypher. Maybe I read it somewhere else, but I hear it from you, this soft dom. When I'm in a dom role, I consider myself a sensual dom. Uh,
Yeah,
you know, in a submissive role, I could go a little bit rougher. They'll probably not necessarily enjoy it, as a dom. So it's all this aspects, so many different parts of our identity that we get to play with, explore, expand, savor, enjoy. So why limit ourselves?
I agree. I also think that as a dom, as a continue like, and I like to continue my education always to
I mean,
you know,
so much to
sort of
learn, right?
to keep my hand in, as it were. So I do bottom for my friends who are doms. Like if I go to a dungeon space and it's like we they call it a demo dolly. It's
Mm,
like, okay, so I'm just gonna be the bottom in your demonstration. Not because I get off on this, it's because I need to remember what it feels like.
yeah.
And also I can put on a really fun show and explain everything that I'm feeling. Hey, this is the just because of I'm as a performer, I'm
Mhm,
I love describing things and to say like, oh, those clamps are really cold.
mhm,
It's
mhm.
like for future reference, if you want to keep your clamps inside the freezer and make it even more cold, this
Mhm.
will be fun.
I love it. That's what I'm talking about. Getting this is the scene, this is the toys that we are playing with. And it means nothing because you could prepare, you need to know what you're doing. But
Mhm.
when in it, you need to stay open because you talk about the clamps, they could be cold from the freezer, they could be hot from a boiling water, whatever. There is no rules. There are endless options, right?
Exactly. And plus, I joke, and I just had a mental image of one of my very good friends telling me to shut up in the scene,
Uh-huh.
and it's like, yeah, no, okay, it's never a bad thing to be a brat either, I suppose. I
There's
so
there is
yeah,
always a role available for no matter
yeah,
what.
exactly. Never say never, as long as you're having fun.
As long as you're having fun, as long as everything that's happening is consensual, as long as it's mutual, you know, all the main pillars, right, of communication and trust and honesty and all.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Whew, all right. So I feel like we scratched the surface a little, and I like to
Yeah.
keep those episodes short, but God, I'm begging you here publicly, please come back. so we could talk more.
We'll talk about something else next time.
Yes. What would be something that you will say to this audience that think about there might people that might just fantasize about it, or might be people that says, hey, I'm interested, but still a lot of shame attached to even talking with my partner or expressing that I'm interested, right? What would you say?
Well, if you're attracted enough to it, and I'm very poly, and so don't be afraid to broach the subject with your partner. And if your partner's not into it, if you've never gotten the kinky vibe from them, and you say, this is something I really, really want to explore, there is nothing wrong with hiring a professional to help you access those parts of yourself, because I don't think it shouldn't threaten the relationship that you have with your partner if it's something that you just really can't ignore. There's no shame in exploring it, and there's no shame, especially I would say there's less shame in hiring a professional than there is in sneaking behind your partner's back and finding someone to play with. And it's like, you can connect with a professional. That's something that I feel like not enough people realize. Like,
Yeah.
you can connect with a professional on an emotional level, and they will understand what parts of you're trying to address. And I know people who are, like, oh, I've been married with my wife for 30 years and I want to do this. I want to do this so badly. And I'm just so scared because she wants nothing to do with it. And it's like, okay. Like, I would feel so much better if she was involved. And it's like, I understand. I would love to talk to your wife sometime if you would ever be comfortable with that. And so I think that loyalty to an uninterested partner keeps a lot of people from playing. Then and they come and they talk to me anyway. It's like, talking about it is one thing, and it's healthy to talk about it. How long is that gonna last before you actually start actively seeking relationships with
Right.
people outside of? As a pro, I am very flattered that they come and talk to me about it, and I'm like, well, hire me. Let's come and let's do a session. Let's work on that. And they're like, oh, but my wife. And it's like, okay, I'm not trying to steal you from your wife. I think if your wife and I were to have a conversation, she would understand that you just want to get spanked.
That's the risk though, because like I know I done it years ago. It's like we just want to ignore the desire, but the truth is the desire never dies. So it's just growing bigger and bigger. And
Exactly.
just have the same conversation with another guest. They were saying, well, maybe I feel like it's easier for me to talk with my wife than talk with a specialist. And that was my point to him as well. Is like, when you in this safe space, like there is no emotions involved. We are not building a relationship.
Yeah.
And maybe you might need some professional advice of how to approach it, what to say, how do you feel about it, so you are confident and powerful, and to learn how to hold that space for your dear partner, because you don't want to be faced with divorce
I think
papers
they
just to say, I want
I think
to
they
be
worry
spanked.
about being emotionally open with someone that they're not, in a relationship with. And it's like, you can be emotionally open with someone who has zero designs
Yeah.
on beginning a life with you.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't want to live with you, and I don't want to love you, and I'm not going to love you, and I'm not going to steal you. But I do understand you. And I think the idea of being understood by someone who is not wearing a ring on their finger is so scary to so many people, especially when the thing that I'm understanding about them is something that they've kept, like,
Hidden.
and it's like, if they could allow themselves to be seen, like, if you say, hey, I see you, they're like, no, you don't. And it's like, yeah, I do. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And you're not the only one who is like this.
Yeah, you make a very powerful point there, because I see that in a coaching too. It I like to give a lot of credit to clients because it takes a tremendous amount of courage to be open and vulnerable and be seen.
Yes.
And in the same time, it's so much easier to do it with a stranger, with a professional that could help you navigate through it than do it with your partner of 20 years, right? So there is a reason why they invented therapy, they invented mediation. It's like there is a reason for it. So okay, so I'm hearing your advice, like hire a professionist. I love that. I support that.
That's a safer option than jumping on dating apps behind your
Right.
partner's back. And like,
Yeah.
just be clear about it and be like, hey, listen, I'm hoping, like, if this is not something that you're into, then I would like to explore it anyway with someone who is well versed in it, trained in it, and is, you know, happy to help me with this, rather than, you know, something
And
that we both might consider cheating.
yeah, and she's not gonna come to destroy our marriage.
Exactly. I don't want to destroy your marriage. I want to pay my phone bill. It's different.
Yeah, different interests, different reasons, different.
Yeah. I was like,
Oh,
and I want to help you out, but mostly,
I want to pay my bills.
listen, cha-ching. I want to get my nails done. I want to get my toes done.
There you go. There you go. I love it. I really appreciate you for sharing with us today, for, give us the time. The time is what I appreciate the most of people.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
It's been such a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Marvelous.
And this is where we landed. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure you leave me a review to let me know. For more bear experiences, please go to simonaspark.com/bear and follow us on Instagram at simonasparkworld. I can't wait to have you back. Until then, be bear, bold, authentic, radical, expressed. See you next time.